Good evening, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm so excited to be here. I hope that you are enjoying the show. I have got just an incredible guest. He's one of the most notable voices when it comes to sports talk radio in Atlanta. He is on 92.9 The Game. He has just been a longtime veteran of sports talk radio, and he's also very passionate, and I enjoy hearing his opinions about sports, and he truly loves his Atlanta sports teams. Please welcome to the show John Fricke from 92.9 The Game. John, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Richard. How are you?
I'm doing great. John, I'm a fan of your work. I love your sports talk and your rants and your takes about Atlanta sports. I mean, we've had a lot going on in the city of Atlanta. The Falcons head football coach introduced today in a press conference, Raheem Morris. A lot of Atlanta Falcons fans are very skeptical about the hire. I know a lot of fans wanted Bill Belichick, but in your opinion, what did you think of the hire of Coach Morris, again, a second time in Atlanta?
Well, first off, I'll get to that in just a second. I do because before we started, you asked me if I could turn the camera on. I just wanted to explain why the camera is off. I think anybody that follows me on X or Twitter, on Facebook, or has heard me on 99 The Game, a couple of months ago, I suffered a pretty bad grand mal seizure, and when the seizures happen, it's not the seizure itself; it's the fall. And I cracked my head open, and I have a lot of.
Oh,
Yeah, I have a lot of. So my face hasn't healed all the way yet. I feel fine. Don't get me wrong. I'm good. It's just I haven't healed up yet from the fall, from the seizure. So if you'll forgive me on that one. So my days of doing television are long over anyway. I quit television when I was 43. I walked away from TV at Fox Sports Net when I was out in LA, and I said, "Yeah, I think I'm done with this television thing because television is a long dark hole of misery." And I said, "I'm just going to do radio." All right. So back to your question here. Here's where I stand with Raheem. I personally, I know him some. I like him quite a bit. But to build Belichick and to Raheem, it's kind of the same thing to me. I think if you're upset that they hired Raheem and not Belichick, I would say to you, what was Bill Belichick with the Browns when he didn't have Brady? What was Bill Belichick with the Patriots when he did have Brady? And what was Bill Belichick with the Patriots when he had Mac Jones? So it really doesn't matter a whole hell a lot. You circle back to Arthur Smith. What undid Arthur Smith? Was it his inability to coach? No. His inability to select quality players in the draft? No. He got a lot of those. So what did him in? What did him in was his decision to stick with Desmond Ritter at quarterback, and he was convinced that he could win with Ritter. Well, if you don't have a quarterback, I don't care if you're Bill Belichick or Vince Lombardi or Don Shula, you're not winning. And so it's really dependent upon who Raheem gets a quarterback. If we get a quarterback in here, you don't have to be the greatest quarterback in the NFL. You just can't be the guy that loses you games. If he gets a veteran in here, a Russ Wilson, I know that Justin Fields for some people is a kind of a high risk move here. It's not. I think it would be a wonderful move. I think him coming home would be great. I'd love to see it. It may not work. Look, I could be wrong, but it's really about the quarterback position first. I mean, yes, there are 7 new starters needed on this team in 7 different positions, but you can address some of those in free agency, some of those in the draft. If he gets the right quarterback, this team will win. If he doesn't, guess what? We'll be right back repeating what happened at the end of Dan Quinn and all through Arthur Smith. End of story.
is Coach Morris going to get some time to build this up, or is the Atlanta Falcons in a win now situation because they have a great team and just need a quarterback? I mean, how much time do you think Raheem Morris is going to get in Atlanta?
Well, I mean, I'm sure he's under a directive from Arthur Blank. Your baseline, Richard, for next year is you got to make the playoffs. Nothing less is that's what got Arthur Smith fired. Arthur Smith walked in and said, "I can win with Desmond Ritter at quarterback," and Arthur Blank looked at him and said, "Can you make the playoffs?" "I can make the playoffs with Desmond Ritter." Well, he didn't, and he got fired because Arthur Blank said, "This team is built to win the South and make the playoffs now." Well, everybody remember when we were going into the playoffs. One of the things I circle back to is I would say I want to win the division, and people are like, "No, I don't want to win the division. I don't. We don't. We'd have to play the Cowboys or the Eagles. We get cry." What happened to the Cowboys and the Eagles? Oh, that's right. They got their kicked, right? I mean, so look. You play the games to win the games. I'm not really sure. Oh, I'd rather lose. What? Huh? I really don't quite understand all of that. But then I'm a Kool-Aid drinker who drives a bandwagon, so I don't quite understand all that. So no, he doesn't have any. There's no grace period here. The grace period is you got to make the playoffs.
John, this is Super Bowl week, and I can't think of a better guest than to have on talking about the Super Bowl 58 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. Once again, this was the Super Bowl 4 years ago. For the fans in Atlanta, I mean, there's a love-hate relationship between Kyle Shanahan. A lot of fans blame Kyle Shanahan for blowing the 28-3 in the Super Bowl. And I hate to bring up bad memories of that Super Bowl, but Kyle Shanahan will always be linked to that Super Bowl against the Patriots. But you're in Atlanta. You've heard the vibe from the fan base up in Atlanta. I mean, how do they feel about Kyle Shanahan?
No, they hate him. Right? I mean, he did build the most efficient offense in Falcons history, but lost his playbook before the game, got stolen. Who the hell knows? And then he's up 28-3 and thinks that throwing the ball is going to be a good thing. But look, I don't want to rehash 28-3 and everything that went wrong there. I hold no personal grudge against Kyle Shanahan. Very good coach. He got super incredibly friggin' lucky. He built a great team, but then he made a gigantic mistake, traded up in the draft to take a kid out of North Dakota State named Trey Lance, who stinks beyond words, and then said, well, just as an insurance here, we get the last pick of the draft. Yeah, we'll take that quarterback from Iowa State. What's his name? Purdy? Purdy, we'll take that kid. He got so incredibly lucky. It's not funny. Now, he did make some really good moves. Obviously, the trade for Christian McCaffrey really worked out for him. So, and, he goes into this game. They're underdogs or favorites. I guess actually they're favorites, aren't they? Which is a little bit odd, but whatever. He's done a really good job there. I got no dog in this hunt. I was kind of rooting for the Lions for no other reason than because it would have been different. I'm a little bored by this matchup, frankly. I've seen these two teams enough that I would have liked some new blood in there. Plus, I would have loved Eminem flipping off Taylor Swift. I think that would have been cool. But aside from that, I don't really care who wins. It doesn't really matter much to me. If he wins, I'm not gonna. It's not gonna bother me if Kyle Shanahan wins and is holding up a Super Bowl trophy. It just is not something that I'm going to spend any amount of time over.
Well, a lot of people are comparing this Kansas City Chiefs dynasty in the 2020s to the Patriots dynasty in the early 2000s. They had a weak division. I'll be honest. The Raiders, Chargers, and Broncos, I mean, they have not been good the last couple of years. They've had a brilliant head coach in Andy Reid, a superstar quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, and they've gotten a lot of breaks. The dysfunction of Buffalo, Baltimore can't win a home playoff game in the AFC Championship, and they play Super Bowls very closely contested. The Eagles' Super Bowl last year, it could have gone either way. The Kadarius Toney punt return really set up Kansas City nicely. They had a 20-10 lead. I mean, the 49ers had a 20-10 lead on Kansas City, the Super Bowl 4 years ago. And really, it was that Super Bowl where they lost to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers that it was a blowout. I mean, so do you think that that's a pretty good comparison? The Chiefs of this decade compared to the Patriots of last in the 2000s?
No, it's nowhere near the same. It's just totally different. I mean, both had great head coaches. I really think Andy Reid is one of the better coaches I think I've seen in my life. He's a tremendous football coach. And Pat Mahomes is a great player, but there's really no comparison. The Patriots were just they had Belichick and the Patriots had the luxury of having every kind of star player at the very end of his career, whether it was a Randy Moss or a Junior Seau or Rodney Harrison, somebody who had 1 year left in the tank, wanted to come play for a ring, and they used that over and over and over again, and it's what sustained them to a great degree, and their ability to get the most out of players that otherwise would have been kind of also ran guys like Amendola or Welker or what have you. So no, look, it's not really the same thing. Our Chiefs are a great team, but you're not going to see a run like Tom Brady had. It's just that is not going to happen in today's NFL. If it did happen, I'd be shocked. Matter of fact, I think you could argue that as great a run as Tom Brady had, and it was an incredible run, what the Packers went through for 30 years with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and almost pulled off with Jordan Love, that really has been the dominant franchise in not Super Bowls, I understand, but we're talking about a 30-year run of a franchise that has been never bad ever, which is odd because everybody gets bad at some point. You have to reset. The Packers never reset in 30 years, and that's just mind blowing. And so the Falcons are going through a reset right now, not unlike what the Braves went through. Look, the Braves were great for what, 20 some odd. I grew up, the Braves sucked, right? And then we got good for a little while in the 80s, and then oh no, we suck again. It was like Rob Schneider in Waterboy. And then we had all these young players come up, and lo and behold, we got a pitcher. The Cubs let Greg Maddux go for some unknown reason. Yeah, let's just let the Cy Young guy go. Okay. And the next thing you know, we're on a 20-year run. And then, we go, wow, no, we suck again. Everybody got old, they retired, and they decided to retool the franchise. And there was, a 3 or 4 year period before this current run where we weren't no good. You're 63 and 99. And suddenly we're good again. And it looks like we're going to be on another 15-year run. So you get a franchise that has that. The Chiefs are not that franchise because the NFL is not set up that way. That's what makes what the Packers did to me almost even more impressive than what the Patriots did, because it was for 3 decades. You don't get back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks. It's only happened 2 or 3 times in the history of the game. Where the Niners went from Montana to Young. Maybe the Cowboys did it once, but to do that and get that lucky, no. So it's a long-winded answer to the fact that with Jim Harbaugh in the division. And, I think they're going to probably retool again in Denver. It's possible Russ Wilson could be leaving Denver. They're probably going to have to eat a lot of money. Russ Wilson may be here. He may be the Falcons quarterback. So I think that division is going to catch up to the Chiefs.
John, I want to switch gears and talk about the Atlanta Hawks. 92.9 The Game covers all the Hawks games, and pretty much you have the inside on what's going on in Atlanta. And I think that the Atlanta Hawks, they had a 4-game win streak. They lose it really a great offensive battle against the Clippers. And it was good to see DeAndre Hunter back. But this chemistry between DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, hopefully they're hoping that it would work. I mean, do you think the Atlanta Hawks will figure it out? Right now they're in the 10th spot. It looks like they'll get into the play-in game. They could possibly sneak in as the number 8 seed and possibly face Boston in the first round of the playoffs, which, by the way, they are playing them tomorrow night in the Boston Garden. But what is the frustration with Hawks fans? And think of they got all those draft picks traded away to get DeJounte Murray because they wanted another superstar to play alongside Trae Young. But personally, John, I think that they are missing the productivity from John Collins. He's averaging 18 points and 10 rebounds a game. And I know that they couldn't keep him, but what is really the frustration with Hawks fans?
Well, I think it's bigger than DeJounte Murray. It's the question is, can you build an NBA champion around Trae Young? And I know some fans want to go ahead and bite the bullet and trade Trae and get 3 number ones and whatnot, 4 number ones, whatever you want to get for him, which you can make an argument for. By the way, I'm not in favor of it. I'm a huge Trae fan. I'd like to see them build around Trae, but if you were to trade Trae, I think we all know what would happen. If you traded Trae to, I don't know, let's say you traded Trae to Milwaukee, and you got 3 or 4 number ones. How many titles do Trae and Giannis win? And suddenly you're sitting in Atlanta going, wait a minute now. Why didn't we just get Giannis to come here? That'd be like, yeah, that would be my thought too, is go out and get a superstar, strip the team down and spend whatever it takes to get a Karl Anthony Towns, get another star in here with Trae. Trae doesn't need a Robin. Trae needs if he's Batman, he needs Superman. He needs a superstar. He needs a big guy down low in a 4 or 5 spot that is a difference maker. He needs a Durant. He needs somebody of that nature. He does not need another guard. The DeJounte Murray, I think, was a bad move to begin with, and it cost Travis Schlenk his job. I personally think Travis Schlenk was opposed to the deal, and as a result, he didn't want to strip out the team, but they decided that that's what they wanted to do. So I think the frustration really isn't about what's going on this year. This year is this year. I think that they'll entertain a trade offer for DeJounte if it's a really good offer, and kind of admit defeat on that trade. They know that there's a ceiling there, but they're going to have to do something if they want to win a world title with Trae Young as their star player. They're going to have to really strip at least probably three starters off this team, maybe even four. They might be have to willing to part with Jalen Johnson at some point in a major trade to go out and get another big star or two down low and kind of reimagine the team around Trey for Quinn Snyder. I think actually that's possible that they may do that. And I think the leading indicator that it would be possible is if they do make a move before Thursday. If they lose tomorrow night to the Celtics, which probably will, then it wouldn't shock me if they made a move on Thursday. They could also decide just to play this year out and make the move at the end of the year. I think if they don't make a move Thursday with DeJounte, that doesn't mean they're staying. We're staying with what we got. No, I just think we're going to wait to the end of the year, see if we can get more for our money. But if I were in the position of the Atlanta Hawks, I would, if I were Tony Ressler, I would instruct my management to strip the team out and rebuild it around Trey and give it one more shot for a couple of years. And if it doesn't work, then I'd trade him.
John, and the last thing I want to talk about is college basketball in Georgia. I'm a huge college basketball fan. It's looking like I don't think any Georgia teams are going to get in the NCAA tournament, which is very unfortunate because we have a lot of talent in the state of Georgia when it comes to basketball. You've covered sports here in Georgia for a while. You've seen Georgia making it to the Final Four in 1983, the Tubby Smith Georgia team in 96 making it to the Sweet 16, or the 85 Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets team going to the Elite Eight, the 04 going to the championship, the 91 going to the Final Four, Kennesaw State making it to the NCAA tournament last year. I mean, why isn't college basketball bigger in the state of Georgia?
Coaching. You know, Bobby Cremins had some damn bad luck. But you look at the players that he put through that program. I mean, I don't think some fans realize, and pardon me, if you go to the Hall of Fame, younger fans, I'd almost encourage you to go over to Georgia Tech, over to Grant Field, and go through the Hall of Fame at Bobby Dodd Stadium. I'm not really sure they realize, who went through that program once Stan Morrison was fired and Bobby Cremins was hired, in terms of Kenny Anderson and Stephon Marbury. And I'm not even talking about Jarrett Jack and Paul Hewitt, those guys. I'm just talking about the Cremins years, and you went through Mark Price and on and on and on. I mean, they have just John Sally and Dennis Scott. And I mean, the number of NBA stars and superstars, Tom Hammonds, the list is so long. I'll leave people out. Chris Bosh. I mean, it's just enormous, in terms of what Georgia Tech had, and that Bobby Cremins couldn't get it all to coalesce. There were a couple of years in the 80s where Bobby had the best team in the nation, and they blew a game against Georgetown, and it was like, oh my God, what are you guys doing? You're better than they were the best team in the nation, and they just couldn't win a national title. It's really just about coaches because the talent's here. Everybody knows about the high school football talent in Atlanta. You need to know about the high school baseball talent that's in Atlanta, which is enormous too. And then you need to know about and look at what Georgia and Georgia Tech have managed to be pretty good baseball programs over the years, and their runs to the College World Series and whatnot. And then you look at basketball, and the basketball talent here is great. And Tom Crean got Ant-Man to come to Georgia, but they really haven't done a great job of keeping the great players here. Great players tend to leave, and that's a coaching issue. Now, will Damon Stoudemire change that at Georgia Tech? I hope so. Will Mike White do that at Georgia? I guess I hope so, but they haven't been able to quite grasp that, and lack of star coaches has been a problem at both schools. And so, I think it's really going to be interesting to see what happens in college football, because I truly believe we're going to super conference faster than everybody realizes. The Big Ten and the SEC are going to get together here. Tony Petitti, the commissioner of the Big Ten, Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, they're going to be meeting in short order here in the next, I think, month or so. Again, pardon me, I've got a cold. and and they're going to form an advisory committee being a joint thing between the Big Ten and the SEC to begin the process of what will be those two leagues merging. And they're going to merge into super conference with 34 teams. They're going to invite another 14 or however many, maybe go to 48, maybe go to 56, and reset college football and not be under the NCAA flag anymore. And they're going to be super conference, whatever they call it, College Football Association, whatever they're going to call it, and redo all the television contracts, make more money than God. And we're going to have this super league, which is fine. I mean, I've been asking for it for a long time anyway. I think they ought to do it. How does it affect basketball is the big story here. Because if you're not in the Super League, right, if you're not in the Super League, then you're going to be losing out on a lot of money because the Super Conference, like, I'll give you an example. Why does Florida State want out of the ACC so bad? Same reason Georgia Tech ought to get out of the ACC. Florida State's going to make, well, $30 million maybe in their new television contract. No, it's a lot of money, John. Northwestern and Rutgers are going to make $100 million a year. They're going to make $100 million a year. Florida State's negative $70 million a year over year over year over year over year to Northwestern and Rutgers. Forget about Ohio State, Michigan, Nebraska, Penn State, anybody else. That's $700 million in 10 years. What kind of a coach can you hire when somebody else has got $700 million and you don't? And so it's about spending the money. Look, you got to invest in your program. Stoudemire, I'm going to give him every opportunity here. But if Georgia Tech was going to change out from Pastner, if they can't get into the Super League of football, the amount of money they're going to have to be able to hire a head coach, you got to go out and find your version of Bill Self. You've got to go out and hire your version of Tom Izzo. You've got to go out and hire the best coach you can get in the nation. Mark Few doesn't want to leave Gonzaga. I get that. But you've got to go out and hire a superstar coach to come in and change the. You've got to change the image here. Tech got very lucky by hiring Bobby Crummies out of Appalachian. Very, very lucky. But you don't get that kind of luck. If you've got a great coach, you've got a great program. That's true of anything in college. If you have the best coach in volleyball, you have the best team in volleyball. If you have the best coach in soccer, you've got the best team in soccer. And if you got the best coach in football, guess what? You got the best team in football. Kirby Smart and Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney aren't the best coaches because their teams are good. Their teams are great because they're the best coaches. And so when you've got a great coach, this is why Urban Meyer still sits out there and everybody looks at Urban Meyer and goes, all right, he's going to coach again because somebody's going to pay him an ungodly amount of money. And wherever he goes, he could go to pick like the worst team you could think of in Division I football. Urban Meyer could go to Vanderbilt and turn Vanderbilt into an 8 or 9 win team. Why? Because he's Urban Meyer. And he's going to get players out of Atlanta. I'm Urban Meyer. Oh, okay. That's what happens. And the proof of that is, look at Alabama prior to Nick Saban. They went through the Mikes. Oh, Alabama's been good forever since Bear. Oh, no. Mike DeBose, Mike Shula, Mike Price, Roll Tide. They were no good. And Alabama wasn't no good. Does Georgia forget they had Ray Goff as head coach? Look, you've got to have the coach. And so one of the things these two programs have lacked over the course of time has been that truly great coach to come in and take them to the next level.
John, I truly appreciate you being a guest on the show. It was a lot of fun. I enjoy just hearing your sports knowledge and your passion for Atlanta sports, and hope to get you back on soon.
Anytime, Richard. It was a lot of fun. And do keep your eyes on what the Hawks do on Thursday morning, because it will be interesting. If they don't make a move, don't think it's because they're settling and, they're just okay with what's going on. It just means that they did not get the value that they wanted to get right now prior to the trade deadline, and they will re-examine this when the year is over.
Absolutely. 92.9 The Game's John Fricke. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight and a special episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. I hope everybody has a great rest of your night, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.